The 2014 anime adaptation of the fantasy manga series Nanatsu no Taizai, aka The Seven Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki, took the entire world by storm with its unique approach to heroes and its intricately crafted world. The series would go on to spawn numerous seasons and spin-offs, firmly establishing itself as a fan favorite. 2023 would see the release of the much-anticipated Seven Deadly Sins, The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, which would introduce fans to a new set of heroes with the original cast taking a back seat. Set 16 years after the end of the Holy War, the story focuses on four young holy knights who have been prophesied as the harbingers of doom for all of Brittania. In today's video, we're going to be exploring one of its characters, Gawain, whose heritage and legacy makes her the perfect bridge between the old and the new. From her origins and her appearance to her powers and legacy, we're leaving no stones left unturned. So join us as we embark into the heart of Brittania to explore one of its newest and hottest characters, Gawain. Let's begin. So who exactly is Gawain? Fans of the original Nanatsu no Taizai might have already noticed some vague similarities between Gawain and two of the original cast members. This is because Gawain is none other than the daughter of Escanor and Merlin, two of the original members of the Seven Deadly Sins. She was conceived after her mother used forbidden magic to combine the flesh and blood of her parents. Gawain would grow up not knowing anything about her true lineage after Merlin entrusted her to Kay Pendragon as his own daughter. This also, in effect, made her the niece of Arthur Pendragon, the King of Camelot. Merlin, however, would stay by her side as a puppet, teaching her the ways of magic, with Gawain again having no knowledge about her true nature. In fact, she thinks that her parents are actually her grandparents after being led to believe that. When Percival, a future comrade, makes his way to the kingdom of Lyonesse, Gawain's destiny is revealed as one of the prophesied knights of the Apocalypse. Tristan, one of the four knights, discovers Gawain, making her the final knight of the Apocalypse. The Knights of the Apocalypse are a group of four holy knights who are said to bring about the total destruction of Brittania. They're supposed to do this by inflicting the realm with four different calamities: famine, war, pestilence, and death. Every one of these knights possesses powers that by themselves can bring about catastrophe, making them hunted fugitives even though no one really knows their identity initially. As the series goes on, we learn that the destruction which Gawain and her comrades are said to herald is actually the destruction of Camelot, which is ruled by Arthur, the vessel of chaos, and his eternal kingdom, which is the real threat to the world. Gawain joins the four knights of the Apocalypse as its fourth and final member, inheriting the title of Famine. Why fans love her menace energy. As a child of Escanor and Merlin, Gawain has inherited quite a few of their personality traits, including ambition, ruthlessness, loyalty, pride, and sensitivity. Having grown up possessing overwhelming power in combination with her royal lineage, Gawain has developed an extremely high opinion of herself. She refuses to acknowledge the strength of others, claiming no one is above her. This is shown when she refuses to follow Tristan's instructions, asking her to wait in the castle until Lancelot and the others arrive. She refuses and leaves on her own, stating that she doesn't take orders from people weaker than her. Gawain can be petulant like a child and even rude to people if she doesn't get her way with things. Even though she hides this side of her beneath elegant mannerisms, Gawain is quick to anger and will lash out at her target mercilessly, even at the slightest perceived hint of disrespect. Her immaturity really shows when she gets defeated by Pelgard, as she begins to bawl and throw tantrums like a child. She also openly shows affection, which can be interpreted as romantic, towards exclusively female characters in the show, at least initially. However, Gawain states that though her actions might appear suggestive, she herself doesn't feel any emotion that can be identified as love towards others. Later, it's revealed that this isn't through any fault of her own. The reason she couldn't love anyone, especially men, was that her mother, Merlin, had hexed her so that she wouldn't ever suffer the same pain of having an unrequited love. If you ask us, that's a pretty twisted way to prevent your child from experiencing heartache. This curse does eventually get removed, leading her to experience love and attraction towards men later in the series. Despite everything we've said so far, suggesting that she's nothing more than a spoiled brat, Gawain does have a kinder side to her personality. Throughout the show, we see her display an unwavering loyalty towards her comrades and her goals, not hesitating to put herself in harm's way for them. How her sun powers turn her into a beast. Thanks to her exceptional pedigree, not only is Gawain a fierce warrior, but also a deadly mage. Although she lacks the experience and control of her parents, Gawain still possesses enough power to go head-to-head with a member of the Ten Commandments. Her main ability is called Dawn, which is extremely similar to Escanor's Grace, Sunshine. When under its effect, Gawain goes through a dramatic shift, not just in terms of power, but appearance as well. She becomes massive and well-built, easily towering over other characters. This change isn't merely cosmetic, because in this phase, not only does her strength increase manifold, but her durability and resistance do too. The aura that she emits in this form is so intense that a number of attacks are simply useless against her, in particular fire-based attacks. The one thing that sets her ability apart from her father's version is that, unlike him, she's not dependent on the time of day for her powers. Gawain can transform at will and gain access to Dawn's ability, provided she has accumulated enough magical energy. The downside, however, is the fact that if she runs out of energy, the exhaustion that follows renders her basically useless, at least temporarily. After the 2-year time skip, we see Gawain develop much more control over this ability. Not only is she able to tap into it more, but she's also able to sustain it longer and use it to amplify only certain body parts. There's also the fact that Gawain no longer needs to transform to gain access to the special powers like Tyrant Style, Passionate Sun, Rising Impact, and Sunshine Burst, which are exclusive to Dawn. As if this wasn't already enough to make her overpowered, Gawain has a number of other spells and abilities at her disposal, which we're going to briefly run through. Gawain has an ability called Absolute Cancel, which allows her to negate any spells she chooses, completely rendering all magic against her useless. She's also able to teleport herself, others, and inanimate objects at will, and she uses this ability in combat to gain angles and vantage points to deal devastating blows to her opponents. Like fighting against an overpowered holy knight that can teleport and nullify all magic wasn't enough, Gawain can also slow her opponents down to a crawl with just a mere touch. She's also capable of firing deadly rays at her foes, which can disintegrate anything in their line of fire. Apart from that, she has a host of elemental spells, like creating spiral hail, fireballs, thunderballs, lightning javelins, and frozen walls whose temperatures are said to be close to absolute zero. Gawain is also able to give little wings to her targets to grant them the ability to fly, while levitating without any help from her. Finally, she's able to boost someone's power past their limits, granting them a short-lived burst of a large amount of energy. I almost forgot that Gawain is able to transform herself into other people at will through illusion magic. However, since it's illusion-based, she cannot mimic the voices of the people she's transformed into. Gawain also carries the sacred sword, Rita, which has been crafted from a fragment of Escanor's very own divine axe, Rita. Just like the axe, the sword is considered to be too heavy for anyone besides Gawain to lift. She also has the ability to recall the sword from anywhere, just like Thor and Mjolnir, and she can use the sword to accumulate solar energy for her later use. All of these things in combination make her not just an overwhelmingly powerful character, but a worthy successor to the legacy of Escanor and Merlin. The fights where Gawain steals the show. We see the first signs of Gawain's overwhelming power during the Chaos and Lioness arc, with the return of old foes, Meliscula and Galland. When Arthur sends the two demons, now empowered by Chaos, to Lioness, they are confronted not by their old foes, the Seven Deadly Sins, but by the new generation of heroes, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. In their somewhat brief encounter, both Meliscula and Galland are handily defeated by Gawain with a tiny amount of aid from the rest of her friends. This is important because for those who have watched the original show, we know just how overwhelmingly powerful Galland and Meliscula were early on. They are, after all, former Ten Commandment members, making them no slouches. However, for them to be defeated, especially after being further empowered by Chaos, just serves to highlight the insane power levels Gawain and the rest are operating at. They are clearly much stronger than their predecessors were at that age, and spoiler alert, but in the manga, she's already scored a number of notable victories against super high-level opponents like Balin and the Testament Beast. During these fights, not only does she use her raw power, she also uses her tactical acumen, showing just how much she's grown since she fought Galland. We cannot wait for these arcs to be animated in the future, as it really is Nanatsu no Taizai at its peak, with Gawain in the forefront of all things in her glory. The orientation curse controversy. Having already spoken about her enforced sexual orientation, let's now explore how this was a cause for controversy amongst a certain subsect of fans. For many people in the LGBTQ+ community, the presence of a queer character in such a major anime series was considered a bit of a win. However, you can also imagine the horror of some in that community when they learned that this was all due to an evil curse. Not a blessing, but a curse. The outrage was expected to be massive, with some even calling out the author for being an alleged homophobe. While over time this controversy has died down, it continues to linger in the minds of people who are especially sensitive to such things. On the other side of the fence, however, are people who try to distinguish between love and lust. They argue that Gawain is shown as a lustful character, acting like a pervert with other women. They back this up with the fact that it is explicitly stated that she cannot feel love, so her actions had to be driven by lust. According to them, a character that only displays perverse lust and not love was in no way or shape a befitting representation of the queer community to begin with, and they could not understand why people would be outraged on behalf of such a representation. In our opinion, as usual, the answer lies somewhere in the middle. We'd like to believe that it was never the author's intention to offend anybody, and they simply used this as a tool to develop Gawain's character further. Is Gawain the new Escanor or something else? Throughout this video, you've probably noticed the similarities between Escanor and Gawain, so let's recap some of these things and take a look at the stuff we might have missed as well in this regard, along with some interesting trivia about her character. The thing that kind of comes to mind when you put the two next to each other is the physical similarity, especially when affected by sunshine or dawn. They both become nearly unstoppable forces of nature who are able to take down foes who are too powerful for everyone else with relative ease. Their main powers stem from their connection to the sun, which is undeniable due to their shared lineage as father and daughter. She has access to almost every single ability that he had, but refines it further with her use of magic that she learnt about from her mother. While on the topic of her parents, having just spoken about her connection with her father, it's ironic that in many ways, Gawain is the Knight of Famine. This is because she's actually quite gluttonous, looking for food as a reward in many instances, as a direct connection to her mother being the sin of gluttony. Both Escanor and Gawain embody arrogance born out of supreme confidence. Not to mention, Gawain also carries a weapon forged from the same material as Escanor's very own axe. In many ways, she's undoubtedly a tribute to Escanor's character, ensuring that his legacy lives on even though he's no longer around. It also serves to tie the older series with this new one, granting a sense of continuity to long-term fans. Just like the character from the Arthurian legends that she's named after, Gawain is a powerful individual, yet far from perfect, making her all the more relatable to fans despite her superhuman nature. We think that Gawain serves to highlight the legacy of not just her parents, but the original 7 deadly sins to newer audiences. It will be interesting to see what role her character eventually develops into as the series progresses. Who's been your favorite character so far in the new season of the 7 deadly sins? Let us know your take down below, but for now, thanks for sticking with us to the end of this one. We hope to see you soon in the next video, but until then, stay safe and stay marvelous.